to the world of David Benavidez and David Morrell, we break down who will win. Now, when it comes to the records of each, both are undefeated. David Morrell 11-0, 9 KOs in his career with an extensive amateur background. And again, I believe he's from Cuba, with that Cuban style has elevated him along with that amateur pedigree to be able to be in the midst of the elite of 168 and now 175. Now, with his style of fight, this brother, let's be perfectly honest, a one-trick pony. Now, that's not a bad trick. Let's not get that twisted. No, it's a good trick because the brother blows everybody out the water. The power, the physical capabilities, and he looks to seek and destroy. He looks to get you out of there quick and in a hurry. The power of David Morrell is something to legitimately be concerned about. The speed of David Morrell, hand-wise, it's something that, hey, I didn't give him enough credit for. I can't deny. It is something that could give most people in the division some legitimate concern, as well as the flow of his combinations, the flow of his offense, the flow that he can get into, especially when he finds you hurt or finds you in trouble. Brother, that's a hard train to stop. I'm telling you, that brother can crack with the left and right hand. How is it that he's going to be able to win? What is it that he's going to be able to do to beat the likes of somebody like a David Benavidez? Well, first off, the man is going to have to do what he's been doing his entire career, which is stand his ground. He's got to be able to not get moved back. Got to be able to not get moved on the back foot, not get put on the defensive, not get put in a situation where the brother in David Morrell is going to be not leading with aggression, not leading with his ability to control the threat level by controlling the pace of the fight. One of the three big keys, got to be able to stand his ground. Two, got to be able to use his combination punching on the inside. Now, if he can and do it effectively, hey, we got ourselves a legitimate upset potentially in the making. Cover that with the power. Brother, that can be one of his best weapons. He's putting himself in the feet of danger. Yes, he is. But if he can withstand it and he can give out better than he can take, brother, we got ourselves a fight. We got ourselves a real situation where David Benavidez could legitimately be in trouble. Because for the first 5 rounds, Morrell's punching can at least get up to the speed of a David Benavidez. It can. It genuinely can. His punch speed, his ability to get the punch off, his ability to beat his opponent to the punch, it can get to the likes of David Benavidez's level within the first 5 rounds. Yeah, absolutely. And if he can get it done within that, his best opportunities to win is going to be from that. His best chance to be successful and his best chance to get victory would come from that. Absolutely. And that's the second thing. And the third thing is going to be, of anything else, the gas tank of Morrell. It's got to last all 12 if it gets to all 12. The best case scenario, it gets to round 5 and he gets him in trouble. Still got all of his energy and can use all of his capabilities, all of his strength, all of his explosiveness to be able to get him out of it. And if he can do that, got himself a potential upset, got himself a potential victory. Because let's be frank, he's got the power to be able to do it. The countering ability to be able to catch David in the middle of his punches and potentially hurt him, potentially rock him. He's got the physical capabilities to be able to stand toe-to-toe with David. He does. Morrell is a physical specimen. David Morrell is somebody that is he's not just a name for name's sake. No, that brother legitimately is a good fighter. And against somebody like David Benavidez, this will be, from a physical standpoint, outside of Gavazzi, outside of David Lemieux, this will probably be his biggest physical test to date. Morrell's a physical fighter. Let's be frank. Let's be serious. David Morrell is a physical fighter. The brother with all the stickness that he has at his disposal. Man doesn't use it all the time. The man will be physical. The man will bum rush you. The man will go in and use his size and his power and his willingness to trade and his willingness to be essentially straight up confident. He'll just use his physicality to try to blow right through you. So this is going to be a physically demanding affair. If he can control that and legitimately get it done within 5, the man's got a shot at winning. It's going to be a big if. A big if. Because on the other side of the spectrum with David Benavidez, both of them square up. Both of them stand and bang with most of their opponents, with all their opponents. But the difference is, when it comes to David Benavidez, everything that David Morrell is everything also that Benavidez thrives on. Benavidez thrives on aggression versus aggression. Benavidez thrives on the ability to go and trade with your opponent. Benavidez thrives on an opponent that loves to throw in volume. Benavidez loves a physical fight. That is where he abides. And it's the biggest thing that can make Morrell win. Yes. It's also the biggest thing that can make Morrell lose. Because here's what we will see Benavidez do. Most likely. Now, if you go watch the last fight with David Morrell and Hot Rod, one of the biggest things that was being successful against him later in the fight was the jab by Hot Rod and the straight right down the pipe. That high guard of his isn't impenetrable. You can get through it. You can bust through it, especially later on in the fight. One of the most underappreciated parts about David Benavidez's game is his jab. Once we see that jab start working with David Morrell, the man becomes impatient. The man gets frustrated, especially when things aren't going the way that they should go. He gets mad. He loses himself. And when he loses himself against somebody like David Benavidez, that is the time that David Benavidez will strike. And so you compound Morrell's impatience. You compound Morrell's willingness to be the aggressor at all times. On top of the fact that the jab of David Benavidez is going to be something that will annoy and do damage. What does that do? You become very much sloppy, especially late in the fight. Because when we look at David Benavidez and we look at David Morrell, the biggest issue that I have with David Morrell in this whole affair, David Morrell, even early on in the fight, can be sloppy with his punches, can flail his elbow, can flail his arm, can paw out jabs when he throws, can paw out that straight right when he fully commits. There is a tell that he has in his shoulders every time he throws. David Benavidez, all of his punches, it's not something that comes with a tell. Not nearly as much. It's not nearly as egregious. It's not nearly as easy to see and recognize. Even with all the pre-slipping that we see David Morrell do when he does want to be defensive. And because of that, he'll be able to beat Morrell to the punch. He'll be able to beat Morrell to offense. He'll be able to beat Morrell as the first to react. And especially when it becomes late, that's when it'll really be the time to shine. Because it will further that frustration and compound it with power. And now make it so that off that jab, I'm now slipping shots. I'm now getting out the way. Your offense is becoming obsolete as the fight gets later. David Benavidez is a man who, even in a flat-footed stance, defensively is better. And defensively has now added more layers to his game. With how sloppy you are at times, even early on in fights, when you are putting out your offense, getting on the inside may be difficult, could be incredibly difficult. And when you do, now where will your stamina be? And I don't think it's going to hold up. That's where the problem lies. David Benavidez takes all of his opponents late, breaking the will and the psyche of the opponent by breaking their body and their spirit, by taking them into deep waters consistently. That's what David Benavidez does. David Morrell's stamina, coupled with his, at times, flaky technique when throwing his shots, the telegraphed nature at which he can throw his punches, on top of the stamina we know David Benavidez drains every single time he faces off against an opponent. We will then see that David Benavidez is going to have his way on the inside. And when that does happen, now we're going to look to see a very diabolical situation for David Morrell in a way that he hasn't seen before. The only thing that's going to be able to be done is to go back to what you know, but just with more heart and fervor. Doing that against David Benavidez. Trying to rough up David Benavidez. When David Benavidez has been routinely able to out-muscle, outclass, outwork, and out-heart every opponent he's gone up against. The man is going to end Morrell on the inside. Just like with Caleb Plant, just like with David Lemieux, just like with Durrell, just like with Gvozdyk, even though he didn't knock out Gvozdyk. The pressure and infighting and the constant volume is going to be something, especially on the inside. Once it gets there, because it's going to get there, It's going to be the thing that wins this fight because Morrell can't take that stamina for all 12. Again, if Morrell can end it in 5, great, cool, it can happen. But if he doesn't, now we got an issue. Now we got a problem. Now we got a legitimate cause for alarm because now we're going to see David Benavidez be able to do work. You're going to see Benavidez now start ripping 2 and 3 punch combinations. You're going to see David Morrell start to linger and wane, start to not just get frustrated, but start to get even more sloppy. And with my final prediction of who's going to win, it's going to be David Benavidez. It's going to be David Benavidez by KO. He's going to stop him. He's going to stop David Morrell. And it's going to happen by round 11. I dare say by round 9. But in between those two, either round 9 and round 11, it's going to be stopped. Because David Benavidez is going to take all of Morrell's energy and using it against him. All that aggression, he's going to be patient. All that fervor, he's going to still destroy, but he's going to pick you apart. And like every other opponent we've seen him do, break him down, bludgeon him, beat him up, and outright destroy him. Sap the spirit and energy to the point where now you can't take the punishment anymore. And it's just systematic. It's going to be Morrell's frustration, Morrell's aggression, and Morrell's willingness to use size against David Benavidez. It's going to be his downfall. Because we will then see David Benavidez work better on the inside. Be sharp while Morrell starts to decline. Keep his composure and keep his technique while Morrell continues to get sloppier and sloppier as the fight goes on. When they're grappling, when they're in the clinch, when they're up against each other. There's a reason why David Benavidez has been seen as such a big opponent for everybody. You saw what he was against Gvozdyk. He was able to even though he didn't knock him out, he was able to have his way with Gvozdyk physically. Genuinely, he was. While still, for the entirety of the fight, keeping his technical ability about him. David Benavidez is going to beat David Morrell. David Benavidez is going to stop David Morrell between rounds 9 and rounds 12. The reason why? To summarize it all, Benavidez, his jab's going to be something that gets Morrell annoyed. 1. 2, the infighting that Morrell is going to be able to do, if he can't get it done and get Benavidez out of there by round 5, it's going to be a legitimate problem that we see that he won't be able to keep that up for all 12 at a high, consistent, and technically sound rate. While Benavidez can do that for all 12. And when Benavidez physically in the clinch is going to also sap the energy by being able to control David Morrell. On top of going to the body all fight long. Especially when he sees that Morrell is starting to lull. When he sees that Morrell is starting to get more complicit waiting around. Compounding on also the frustration that Morrell brings. And then inevitably, like we always see with every other opponent, we're going to see Morrell slow down. We're going to see him hurt. We're going to see him frustrated. And we're going to see David Benavidez come through. Once rounds 6 and on start, amp up his aggression. Amp up his volume, still be defensively sound, and inside the clinch and on the inside work, let those combinations run and flurry where Morrell can't catch up. And then boom, the round by round destruction on the second half of the fight comes into play, and next thing you know, bloodied up. He's cut. He's swelling. He's bruised, and we can say for his corner,
hey, look at this. We got some problems here.
We got some problems.
We got some problems here.
You're doggone right, JR. We got some problems. We're going to have some major problems. And it's going to be, at that point in time, the world is Benavidez's to hold. Because he'll be able to have the stamina and the power and the technique as well as the calmness to be able to not lose himself to the point that he will get over eccentric, unlike with David Morrell. And when that happens, it's going to get taken out. It's going to get beat. It's going to get KO'd or stopped by the referee. Either in round 9 or round 11, we're going to see David Benavidez knock out David Morrell. There you go.